You're in a good place now. Relax, breathe, smile. You've entered into your element, the home of origin, the home of intelligence and beauty, where relevant topics are discussed, where what you think counts, and where superior is the norm. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
You know what I'm craving? A little perspective. That's it. I'd like some fresh, clear, well-seasoned perspective. Can you suggest a good wine to go with that?
With, what, sir?
Perspective. Fresh out, I take it.
I am,
Very well. Since you're all out of perspective and no one else seems to have it in this bloody town, I'll make you a deal. You provide the food, I'll provide the perspective, which would go nicely with a bottle of Cheval Blanc.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. You know, on tonight's episode of Perspectives, we're exploring why we argue, why we fight with others, and what we're truly and actually fighting about. You know, when we have a fight or an argument with others, what are we actually trying to do? Arguments and fights are an integral part in relationships and marriage as much as sliced bread really is. So why do we fight? Why do we fuss? And why do we argue? Keenan, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. You know, I saw the coolest haircut tonight on the way over here.
Really?
Yeah, you know, like the Olympic statue with the wreath on the head, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, this guy, he had the wreath like carved into it, like his hairstyle was like, it was carved in. You know,
Nice.
he's African American, so he can do that, you know. But it was, I was like, you know, I got to do that the next Olympics. I'm doing that.
You're doing that?
I'm
So
doing
you got a good 4 years almost to get ready for that. We'll help you. We'll even dye it green for you on the sides. We'll do it. Maybe we can do like a motif with like a beard motif. Add that too as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be something kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Gary Rugoff, I'm glad you could join us on Perspectives tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad to be here with my good friend, so I look forward to it.
Awesome. It's a beautiful Sunday night. And where's Bill at? I'm trying to find Bill. Where's Bill tonight?
Over here, Ashley. Can
Bill,
you hear me?
I can hear you. Bill right now is back in the control room, actually, working on some stuff. So we'll be hearing from Bill intermingling through this show tonight. So I look forward to the yelling and screaming. We'll see how it goes. So let's talk about why do we really fight and what are we really fighting about in relationships? You know, when we're getting something out of the fight, I think is a lot of times why we fight. We usually do things that give us something back in return. So think about that. When we do things in life, it might not be the smartest things or it might not be the best thing, but somehow or not we're getting something back in return. And I know that a lot of people listening tonight are thinking, why would you want to argue? You know, why would you want to fight? But I think we do it because we're getting something out of it. It's helping us in some way. Maybe it's increasing our ego. Maybe we feel more powerful. But I do believe that power and ego are kind of the same thing, and both are definitely not in the spirit of love. Instead, it's kind of devious ways of claiming a stake in a relationship. So, you know, Keenan, I think we talked about this the other day. You know, being that it's power and ego, and a lot of times people want to stake their claim, you know, I'm better or whatever the fight is. I think that's what people get out of fighting, is to get more power, to cover more ground sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, people, they fight to win. I mean, it's one of those things where you get into an argument and you have to prove no matter what that I am right and you're wrong. I'm king of the mountain and you're down in the slums. And that's how it goes. And I think that's why we do fight. I mean, to prove something, you know, but much like, you know, prize fighters, boxers, or mixed martial artists, you know, they get in the ring, they get into the octagon. I'm like, why do they do it? Why do they fight for a living? They fight for a living to prove that they are the best, you know, that they are the baddest person to walk the face of the planet. That's why they do it.
I think people sometimes fight to open communication. It allows them, they yell out things that they might not otherwise say. So it opens up kind of the lines of what they've been holding in and allows them to express that and get beyond it.
I like that. I think also, like, we fight to push our personal agendas. You know, what we want out of a relationship. You know, why we want the other to believe, what we want the other to believe, and what might have been figured out maybe by the other person that makes you feel bad. So, for example, you know, if we're not pushing an agenda, what about when somebody that we are around or someone we're close to figures something out about us that we really didn't want them to figure out?
Oh, you mean when they hit below the belt?
Yes. And then that's when you argue back.
Push those buttons.
Yes, exactly. Or something you don't really want to, you're vulnerable about, you feel vulnerable to, and they see something. And I think sometimes in those cases, what do? We kind of like say, hey, look over here, and start fighting about something that really makes no sense whatsoever. Let's fight about who took the trash out. I mean, did you take the trash out? You didn't take the trash out, but you got too close to me, too close to my vulnerability, too close to my heart, or whatever it was. Now I'm going to argue about something that's just, asinine.
Correct. I mean, when someone hits below the belt with me, and the thing is, like, where I live, I see this a lot. I see this a lot when people get into an argument or an altercation, and like someone will say something that has nothing to do with the situation just to piss the other person off. They'll like mention something from 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and I'm standing there on the sidelines like, okay, what exactly does this have to do with the situation that's going on at hand? But the thing is, I do see it a lot now as far as why people do it. I mean, it goes back to what we said earlier. I mean, it's for the ego to prove something.
Well, like, what about in marriage? So in marriage, a lot of times that happens when somebody brings up something that took place years ago, and they bring it back up and they throw it back in someone's face, and they go, look at this. You remember when you did this? I wonder, why is that a lot of times that happens? Is it because they're trying to remind the person of a certain situation? Is it a guilt type thing? Or is it normally because they haven't actually gotten over the situation themselves?
Well, it could be that they normally haven't gotten over the situation. And it also goes to what you said about the whole guilt trip thing. I'm like, really, when you want to make someone feel bad, depending on, some of it has to do with religion, like say Catholics, let's guilt trip them. Let's just guilt trip the heck out of them, just to make them feel, yay big, yay small. I know y'all can't see what I'm doing with my fingers, but I'm doing a little pinch thing with my fingers.
He's making a very small looking comment, like the little, what is it called, with the like smusher heads.
Yeah. I mean, that's why. That's what it is, and I notice women do it a lot,
Well, like my mother goes through the guilt, and the reason why it is because her mother gave her the guilt, and the reason why that is because her mother gave her the guilt. And Bill's actually high-fiving right here from the control room. What's up? You got the guilt too?
My mom does it. Yeah.
I mean, my mom, I love her to death, and God bless her, but, she just does it just because it's just been taught, and then religiously, yes, I was raised Catholic. I actually, I walked away from the Catholic Church, not because I don't like the Catholic Church, because I realized what I was looking for. And when the priest and I sat down at a young age, about 13, and I told him about what I was thinking, he's like, you should go and check it out, look around, experience and check out all different types of religions, and I did. And I figured out that just wasn't for me. Not that it's not for other people. I mean, I believe in a higher being. I believe in God, but the point is that a lot of times I don't believe in some of the doctrine. Let's go back to what we were talking about. Guilt, though, is always given a lot of times in religions. So what about when you deal with that guilt and somebody keeps using that against you? And I think that a lot of times it's because they inherently hold the guilt within them. So they're already guilty because they're now just wanting you to feel the same.
Why do people use guilt?
Why do they use it?
Right. Why do mothers? Why do religions? Why do they use guilt?
I think they use it because it kind of keeps you in check. So I think like institutions and stuff like that use it because it keeps you in check because you feel guilty about doing something bad, or you feel guilty about doing something that's not like in the doctrine or that's not considered appropriate. I think that family does it because they see love as having strings and they don't realize what true real love is. They see love as you do this, you show me love. You do that, you're showing me love. But, they don't understand that love has no strings. Just because you don't happen to show up to a family reunion doesn't mean you don't love everybody. However, most people see it as the things you buy them or the times that you're there. That's what they see love is because they've been conditioned to believe that love is money or that love is whatever is the pie in the sky concept, when sadly enough, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
love is really just its own.
I think people use guilt when they don't want to address the subject straight on and tell you, do this because of that. So they use guilt as a way to enforce their argument, which is not strong on its own, and that's why they bring guilt in.
I like that, and I think it's been used so long and for so many centuries. I think it's just part of the deal. It's part of the underwriting. It's within the words. It's within the lines. It's like reading between the lines of I'm saying this to you. I'm upset with you, or you let me down, and then I'm going to also equate this guilt. But the thing is that I don't know if really anybody can give you guilt. I think we actually give ourselves guilt.
Yeah.
I think it's innate within us. I think somebody can make us feel guilty, like mom or dad or whoever it is, or girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, or husband. But I think that honestly, the guilt's within us. So, for example, if you do something that might go against your moral values, right? It has nothing to do with the other person you're involved in. You're going to feel guilty about doing that act because you've created guilt in your mind, because that equates guilt. Mm-hmm. And I think that, that's inherently what it is that it's part of us. And we can either kind of reflect toward that, we can kind of gyrate with that and get onto that. It's basically a vibration, I think, or we can avoid it. I think guilt is one of those things that most people just can't avoid.
In the 60s and 70s, one of the things about the flower power revolution was throwing out guilt. Do what feels good, what you want to do, and that was all about lack of guilt.
Exactly. I agree with you. In the 60s, it was all about lack of guilt, and it was all about the concept of not feeling guilty for what you do in life. But we'll talk about more of that later, because when we return, we're going to talk more about why we fight, why we choose to do it, what our background has to say about fighting, as well as what reality show genres have actually added to the fighting and arguing process in relationships. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges, will be back in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives with Ashley Berges. The water's warm and there's a swim-up bar. Glass of perspective, anyone? Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. On tonight's episode of Perspectives, we've been exploring why we argue, why we fight others, and what we're actually truly fighting for. When we have a fight or an argument with others, what are we actually trying to get? Arguments and fights are as integral to relationships and marriages as sliced bread. So why do we fight? Why do we fuss? And why do we argue? Right before the break, we were talking about how we sometimes fight for pushing our personal agenda, as well as the whole guilt factor. But what if we look at another perspective? We fight to keep our independence. I think independence in relationship, especially marriages and business partnerships, are crucial. And when one person tends to feel trapped or minimized, right, the argument seems to ensue. So why is that? It's because people feel like they're losing their independence. And I think a lot of times in relationships, even prior to marriage or marriage, when people feel like, hey, I've been single my life, I've been able to live my life, I've been able to put my pants on, I've been able to eat, I've been able to take care of myself, and all of a sudden now I'm in this relationship and I feel trapped because this person seems to be taking my independence away from me. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And I think that's what causes some arguments, because it's the arguing of trying to regain ground, trying to get yourself back, or maybe the fear of losing yourself could be another argument process.
Well, yeah, because it's no longer, say, for instance, it's no longer, hey, look, here comes Keenan. Now it's, oh, look, here comes Keenan and Christy. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, where's Keenan and Christy? Keenan and Christy.
Or when they see you, hey, where's Christy?
Exactly. Hey, where's Christy? And it's like, wait a minute, I'm here too. I'm this autonomous being. What about me? I can, I came into this world by myself, and I'm probably going to leave this world by myself, much like everyone else will, But, I mean...
Except for if you turn around and say, I'm going to take y'all with me.
Tomorrow's headlines.
And that was the end of Sunday night. It was good times with everybody, good times. Let the good times roll, No, I see what you're saying with that. I mean, what about also we fight to add spice? Okay, so instead of just the independence, what about the spice factor? So think about we fight because we feel like we're not independent. We fight because we feel like somebody's taking over our abilities, our rights. Like, why are you making reservations here, and why do we have to hang out with this couple? I don't want to hang out with them. Every time we hang out with this couple, I hate it. It sucks. I don't like it. Or what about the whole thing of they're bored? And so sometimes in relationships you get bored. The boring factor comes in because you're no longer chasing people because you're not single anymore. So there you are and you're bored. Like I used to always say, what is it? What Rock always said, Chris Rock, you're either married and bored or single and lonely. And so a lot of times people feel that way. So they actually start a fight to get loud and to add spice to the relationship. You know, because sometimes fighting is supposed to lead to sex or whatever else, as well as they're bored and they want to hear themselves talk.
And maybe they grew up thinking that fighting was part of a relationship.
Totally true. There's a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah.
Especially Greek. I'm not going to name names, but you got Greeks, Italians, you know, that's part of the culture. And the louder they get, especially the louder the woman gets, you know, the more important the fight is.
Well, yeah, I mean, drama is exciting. Drama's very exciting. I mean, like, you know, I'm not going to lie. Every time I've been in a fight, you know, you have that adrenaline rush and everything else. And it's like, man, this is like really exciting. And, you know, People like excitement. I mean, why do you think there are roller coasters? If people didn't like excitement, then there wouldn't be like, you know, amusement parks and train wrecks, you know. I'm like, people would not drive slow every time they saw an accident on the highway if people just did not like drama. I mean, as many people that I come in contact with say, oh, I don't want any drama. I don't want any excitement. But when it comes to them, it's like they welcome it, you know. So, I mean, when it comes to the border factor, yeah.
I see what you're, I mean, because I think sometimes people get bored. I also know some people, and I'm not going to name names or point fingers or name names, but I do know some people that their relationship is like centered on arguments. Mm-hmm. And so basically they go out and when they're leaving an event or before they're leaving an event, basically they start a fight.
Come on, Ashley, spell it.
Yes, I'd love to. But yeah, they start a fight and it's crazy because you'll see them fighting at the party or whatever you're at and they're just going at it and they're fighting and all this stuff's happening. And then all of a sudden they take off into the washer and dryer room or they take off into the bathroom, the door closes and next thing you know, a few minutes later they come out and they're all smiles like, we're just going to go home. It was really great. We had a good time. But they do it every single gathering. So this has become part of their relationship.
Part of their identity.
Yeah, we fight and therefore I get this. And
exactly.
You're getting something out of it, whether you're getting sex, whether you're getting approval, whether you're getting, you know, this adrenaline thing going, whether you're just getting to hear yourself talk or scream. I mean, you're getting something out of it, and I don't know if it's working for them, but in their mind, it's part of the calculation.
Well, yeah, pretty twisted emotions,
right?
It's definitely not healthy, but people do that.
I mean, if they're getting sex out of it, then it is working for them, and they're going to keep doing it. I mean, like the thing is, you know, a lot of the stuff that we do, the fundamentals, like that very bottom of the hierarchy of needs. Food, shelter, sex. Why do we all have jobs? Food, shelter, sex. You know, that's. I mean, like that's what I'm.
Keenan's breaking it down.
Yeah, I'm just being real. I'm just being honest. You know, that's why we do it. And the thing is, though, if this guy or this woman argues with a significant other, and then after the argument they get sex out of it, right? And they figured it out. Hey. Every time I do this, I get sex out of it. So guess what? They're going to keep doing it. Just like when everyone was an infant and we said, where? What happened? We got fed.
But that's not everybody. Some people are happy after a fight. Some people feel bad. So you got to break down.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. Because I mean, when I fight, I don't like fighting. So that's one thing I don't like.
I don't either.
See, I don't like fighting either because I don't get anything out of it. I get nothing out of it, you know. And now, if I was to be like, say, that one couple that fought and had sex, then I would probably fight all the time.
Because that's what and I think we've all been in relationships like that. Now, and that's the thing is that I've been in relationships like that, but I certainly didn't marry it, you know, because that would not be a healthy marriage.
The other extreme are the people that don't fight, and then all of a sudden one fight and they don't know how to handle it.
Oh, yeah, like if they just freaks him out. And Bill's holding his hand up, and yes, okay, we have...
boom, ends in divorce.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. Separation.
Or they feel like it's the end of the world. I mean, they feel like this whatever they had to talk about, and this person just doesn't care about me, or whatever, but it's such a new thing to them. Or they've been holding all this deep down inside for so long that it just blows up. Yeah. You know, and everything is a fight.
But then when they're fighting, and they've been holding it in for a long time, they're not fighting about what the real problem is. They're just fighting about the last thing that made them angry.
Or the circumstances.
The thing that sparked it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they never resolve it that way.
You're right, like that, like the last thing, not the thing that actually created the problem.
They keep burying it and burying it and burying it. And boom, then.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because isn't it that they're basically burying it from themselves as well?
No, yeah, they are.
Not dealing with it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, they're not dealing with it because they never learned how to deal with it, or they were never taught how to deal with it. You know, I mean, Because a lot of people, they walk around as if, they have to be happy-go-lucky all the time because that is what they were taught, because we do live in a society that says, hey, you cannot express anger. And if you express anger, then there's something wrong with you, depending on who you are, actually. I mean, if you're a man, then sure, you can express anger all day. But say if you're a woman, no one likes to see an angry woman.
You're just crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. Then you're crazy.
She needs to be on medicine.
Exactly. Yeah.
It must be the time of the month.
Yeah. It's always something sexist like that when it's like, well, no, she breathes the same air as we do. I'm like, she comes from the same place as we all do, and she has the same range of emotions.
You want to fight about that?
Let's go fight.
Yeah, exactly. But she has the same emotions as everyone else. So why would she not express anger whenever it comes to, whenever it happens? Now I'll put it to anyone like this. Every now and again, you do need to express little pockets of anger, just little pockets.
But I think it depends on where it's at.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, a lot of the anger, honestly, is within yourself. And so a lot of times we take out anger on other people when it has nothing to do with you. True. It has nothing to do with that person. It has all within you. It's all within your mind. It's all within what you're holding, what you're keeping. And the sad thing is that normally we just, freak out on somebody else because they happen to be right next to us. And the sad thing is that normally that can be our most loved people in our life because they just happen to be the nearest person to just go, I'm just so mad. And then they just feel really bad because they don't even know what they did. But the sad thing is it's all still in your mind.
That's part of growth and maturing, though. When most of us are young, we're hotheads, and then you get older and you take your time to react, and that word react rather than respond. So, that's part of maturing, how you handle it, whether you fight right away or not.
I like that. I like that a lot. We're going to talk more about maturity as well when we come back. We're going to talk more about the reality show genre, also about deflecting attention from the real issues. So stay tuned because when Perspectives with Ashley Berges returns, we're going to return and, we'll be back in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges on 570 KLIF.
I got really good ideas.
I believe it. I know. I'm right. I listen to you. You have great ideas.
I just try to go with the flow,
Good. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
No, I got to get out of the flow.
Well, then get out.
I'm in the flow. That's what got me here. I'm 26 years old. I got nothing to show.
You're young. You're so young. My papa, he didn't make Master Tinker until he was 490.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. And on tonight's episode, we have been exploring why we argue, why we fight with others, and what we're actually truly fighting about. When we fight and argue with others, what are we trying to do? These seem to be integral parts of relationships. It seems that arguments and fights are just as commonplace as sliced bread. So why do we fight? Why do we fuss? And why do we argue, especially with our loved ones? So right before the break, we were talking about how fighting can add spice to your life. That kind of sort of thing, and how sometimes we do that because we're bored in a relationship. But I think if we took it to the next level as well, think about how this latest generation has become like the reality show genre. It's like everybody's watching a reality show, and every reality show portrays people fighting, they arguing about everything and anything. And it seems like we don't need to fight that much, but they sensationalize fighting and how fighting works in these relationships. And, I see clients on a daily basis that are, between the ages of like 22 and 27. And most of the women that I see, they're not married, they're dating, but they actually fight. They talk to me about how they fight with their boyfriends and they yell at them and all this stuff. And I said, why? They said, well, I see it on TV all the time. I watch, this show or that show, and I won't say the shows, but we watch these shows, and these shows tell us, what's the latest show that won, the Beverly Hills, the Housewives, and this stuff. And they watch this stuff, and the women are always screaming at the men, and they're always yelling, and they say, well, I always make my boyfriend feel bad, and I always put him down to get what I want. And so I think a lot of that stuff is the reality show sensationalizing, arguing in relationships, which is kind of sad because people are starting to follow this and use this as some sort of code, some sort of way of life.
Well, yeah. The the thing about it is it's one of those things where it's life imitating art, because what a lot of people don't know about reality television is that, I said it before and I'll say it again, reality television is not reality. It is scripted. I mean, they're placed in these situations by producers and whatnot. And on top of that, I mean, people are put together because the thing is, you don't make friends by auditioning and going in front of a panel, and then you're seeing a producer, a director, and also a psychologist, and then they say, hey, we're going to, match you up with this person, and y'all are going to live in this house. Not only that, the thing about reality television that a lot of people do not know is that, whatever television network that this show is for, those guys are being fed alcohol just so they can act the biggest fool they can in front of a camera.
I wanted to bring up earlier what effect alcohol has on the fighting. But, on these shows, like you said earlier, train wrecks are what people watch. So people don't want to watch a happy family. And I think that's the difference of the generations.
Yeah, no
we don't
one
have
watches the
Leave
Brady
It to
Bunch.
Beaver and Brady Bunch anymore. It's got to be a train wreck and trashy people.
I see that too because, back in the day, people, because that's all they had, and I think that people like to watch good things. I think though that sometimes people get desensitized to what is good, but no, I agree with you. They want to see the train wreck, and maybe that's because it's part of themselves. A lot of times people like things that either are outside of themselves, they feel. Sometimes people can like even mirroring things. I mean, what about you, Gary? I mean, when you think about like arguments in your past or dealing with relationships or what have you, I mean, what's the commonality?
That's a tough one. So
I put him in the hot seat pretty bad, didn't I?
cutting right through it. Well, I dealt with people who buried their problems, and then when we fought, I was being straightforward, not realizing that we're not really fighting, and I got emotional. We're not really fighting about what the real issues are, and that doesn't result in, good endings. So,
well, I agree with you, and that's what I was just about to bring up, which is great. We fight to deflect attention to the real issues. When someone gets close to the real issues, and probably in the situation you're talking about, when someone gets close to the real issue, or maybe the intimacy issues in relationships, intimacy, we argue about something else that's close, kind of off the subject, so we can jump subjects because we don't want to feel vulnerable. And if you're in an argument with somebody and you realize all of a sudden we're not really arguing about the real thing anymore, this person is arguing because they feel vulnerable, or this person is arguing because of intimacy issues, the intimacy issues are inside of them.
So do you think different levels of intellect and education have different fighting habits?
Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
tell us
they
about
do.
Do you have an opinion on this, Keenan?
Yeah, well, yes, they do. I'm like, if you go into the low income neighborhoods where most of the people there are, a high school diploma or below,
right?
I'm like, the fighting there is intense, and like a lot of times it does get physical.
And also there's more alcohol there.
Yeah, there's more alcohol. I'm like, you got people out,
or maybe drugs.
Yeah, I'm like, they're rolling blunt and drinking 40 ounces. And on top of that, not only does it get physical, but it gets really violent. And the thing is, it's not one of those things where it's like, okay, we fought about this issue and it's over. No, it does not work like that at all. It's, okay, we fought about this issue and I don't like the way it turned out. So next time I see that guy, wherever it is, whether he's walking down the street or on the basketball court, or maybe he's in a 7-Eleven somewhere, I'm going to get him. And guess how I'm going to get him? I'm going to get him with, with whatever type of firearm that I have. And the thing is, I don't care who's there. I don't care what time of day it is. I'm going to get this guy, because the thing is, we got into this this fight, it didn't come out right. And I didn't like the outcome. So yeah, and like, education level does make a difference.
Education level does make a difference. That is a good question. I think that people that have more education have a tendency of being able to mask the argument. I do think that people have semantics. I do believe that people can cover up things better when they have more intellect. I believe that even buries issues even more. I do agree that drugs and alcohol play a huge role in arguments. And I think that sadly enough, sometimes, though, alcohol can bring things to the surface that might need to be talked about and would be good to get out in the open. However, it is brought in such a poor platform, the way that the yelling and the screaming is, that there's no way to really get to that real core. And I think that that's an extreme thing. I think also, what about this? And I think y'all would probably agree with this. We are actually arguing and fighting with the thoughts swirling around in our own mind. So I think even in the low income, even in the higher income, even in the middle income, I think basically we're all arguing and fighting with the thoughts swirling in our own mind. You know, as the voices get louder and the voices in your mind get louder and louder, right? Think about it. We all have these mind-made limitations, and these thoughts in our head get louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, and you want to stop them. You know, but you don't know how. And so you want to fight, but you can't fight your own mind. You can't take your mind, can't take your head off your body and start kicking it. You know what I mean? You can't use it. And so instead, the person that happens to be right near you becomes the voice of your mind. So think about this. Everything they say, you hear it a certain way. They might not be saying that at all. They might not be inflecting a certain situation at all. It's the way you interpret it because of what's going through your mind in a negative way. And so you begin to fight them.
It starts that way. Yeah, it starts that way. But then I think people start reacting to each other, and they're not really thinking anymore in most fights.
No, because they're not being intuitive as well. They're not thinking, okay, well, I know that so-and-so has had this issue. I know that they feel this way. Or I know maybe when I do this, I make them feel vulnerable. Or if I go and talk to another person in a room, I make them feel insecure. And so every time I do that, I'm also doing that for a reason, because I know that it hurts this person and I know that we're going to argue, but I'm doing it to get some sort of rise out of it. And so I agree with you. That becomes some sort of technique where somebody's getting a little bit of power at some point in time.
And if they were healthy emotionally, they wouldn't get a rise out of it, which is a pretty funny expression anyway.
Isn't it funny? Right? Yeah, because if they were healthy, they would just literally say, why are you doing this? Because they can see right through it. When you're healthy, you go, stop with your antics.
Right. So it starts at childhood, being taught to deal with things correctly in a healthy way, which many of us aren't, because you learn from your parents, which aren't always healthy.
Yeah, and you're right, because our parents had us, some people's parents had them 18 years, their parents were 18 years older than them. Right. Some might have been 15, some might have been 22 years, some might have been 25 years, but there's not that big of an age difference. And some people, the only child, it's the first time they experience, they don't know what to do. You know, and so the education level of that, but as well as we learn by watching. By the time we are conceived and we're in the home, we learn immediately, subconsciously. Everything we see and do is stored in our subconscious. And when we become old enough to get into relationships and to do that, our actions are actually, you know, we actually choose our actions based on the things that are swirling in our own mind, even the stuff that we can't really put a finger on. So when we return, we're going to be talking more about how you can actually quiet those voices, how you can start realizing when the argument's really within you, and how you can stop allowing these things to get to you. So stay tuned, because Perspectives with me, your host, Ashley Berges. You know what? We'll be back in 2 shakes.
I could lift you up. I could show you what you want to see and take you where you want to be.
Get in here and give us your perspective. We're listening. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Berges.
Welcome back live to Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Berges. You know, on tonight's episode, we've actually been exploring and figuring out why we choose to argue, why we fight with others, and what we're actually truly arguing and fighting about. You know, it seems that arguments and fighting are really integral in relationships, and especially marriage. So why do we fight, fuss, and argue? And I think we figured out that a lot of times we're fighting with ourselves, that a lot of times it's the voices in our own head, whether it's just trying our power and our ego, or wanting to inflate that, or our independence. You know, and sometimes perhaps it could be drama. It could be wanting to have some spicing it up, the spice of life, or something. You're obviously getting something out of it. You know, so why and how actually do we stop fighting in our own life? And I think that's paramount, because we can talk about fighting, but how do we stop it? I think first off, the only way that we can actually stop fighting in our own life is to realize that a lot of times the fight is within us. The fight, the integral part of the fight is within us. The anger, the resentment, whatever that is within us. Now, what is that about? I don't know. I don't know where the anger and resentment's coming from. It could be coming from past. It could be coming from family. It could be coming from several different things. But most of the time, it always has to do with you. And so when we get a hold of our emotions and we can start listening to figuring out what is it that's upsetting me? What is it that's angering me? Because a lot of times the people that are right near us, they're not really doing anything to really just upset us, but sometimes they can be mirrors, or sometimes they can kind of take the message that you're feeling and make it really loud. And so they're not helping, but they don't know what to do. So a lot of times when we look at someone else and think that they're the bad person or they're the seed and we argue with them, it's not the way of doing it. And so we have to stop the dumping process, because I think a lot of times we see somebody and we just dump all over them. I hate you, you got this, you done this to me, you done that to me. But the problem is you dump on them and they're going to turn around and dump on someone else. And so that's not what we're here for. That is not our journey. Our journey is not to continue the dumping process. Our journey is to figure out what love is. Our journey is to figure out who we are. Our journey is to understand the intimacy of ourselves. And so a lot of people listening tonight, when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. Okay, that's different. Sex and intimacy are two different things. When you finally figure out intimacy and you have intimacy with yourself, that changes the whole ball game. Okay, everything changes, because you start realizing that things that you've done in the past is putting yourself down. You start realizing that the things that brought you up and gave you power actually took the power away from you. You start realizing that the power really isn't even there, and that the ego creates this, this BS power that you're supposed to get, which has no sanctity of reality whatsoever. It's just conceived to make you feel that there's another prize or something else there.
Absolutely. So if you can find happiness and a good place, you're less likely to fight with others.
That's true. Like, so if you come from a good place, if you're thinking clearly, if you're thinking and realizing too that, when we all say that we're angry, we're mad, we're this, we're depressed, we're this, we're that, we can't be those emotions. You can't be depressed. You can't be angry, because, in this situation, Bill's in the control room, but Bill can be Bill. Keenan's right here. Keenan can be Keenan. Gary can be Gary. I can be Ashley. The only emotion that we can be is love. You can't be depressed. You can't be anger, because that would have to be you all the time. And you would have to act from a space of anger, which we don't existently have. We only have that in our mind because we create things that we say, that makes me so mad.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. It's about love and being happy. And I mean, it just makes me think of John Lennon and imagine. You have to imagine that state, and then you become it. You don't just become it. You have to want it.
I mean, but the question is, how do we become love all the time, 24/7, without anything irking us, whatsoever? Because I know, like earlier you said that I'm kind of paraphrasing here, to where this anger. When we fight someone, that we're really fighting with ourselves. And like, for example, like where I live, I pretty much get into it with somebody every day. I'm in conflict with somebody every day, where I live, and maybe part of it is because it's like, wait a minute, dude, I served my country and I'm a college graduate and I live here.
Maybe the other people, that's just the only way they know to communicate.
Well,
and they feel comfortable fighting.
No. It's not the only way they know how to communicate. It's not.
Keenan, the thing is that the reason why you have arguments with people, and the reason why it sounds hard to be love all the time, is because when you do finally become love all the time, the buttons that people push no longer activate. Mm-hmm. And the only reason they don't activate is because of one reason. Because instead of seeing that person or seeing what they do or hearing them, instead of that getting anger anymore, you show love toward it, because you actually see yourself when you were younger doing that same thing.
And you stop reacting and you just say, it's their problem. It's not my problem. And that's when you start fighting.
Right. Because I mean, like, I know for me, sometimes it's hard.
Because they're like, so think about them like
you're used to reacting to them
like,
too.
It's hard to walk away.
Well, think about them. They're like angry children. But they're in adult
Jealous
bodies.
children.
Okay. And so you're dealing with these people that don't know that they can be loved. And the biggest thing is that they don't think that the world is a good place. They don't think that they're good people.
No, they don't.
And they're not happy. And those are the same people that look at me all the time and go, well, how the hell am I going to be happy then? Because I still can't find it. And I go, well, that's because you're looking for it. You already have it. You just choose to act like it doesn't exist. If I sat there and said every day to myself, I'm the absolute worst person in the world, you know what? Soon I'm going to believe it.
Right.
If I said to myself, I'm never going to be happy again, you know what? I'm never going to be happy again because I don't have the right to be happy because I can never be happy again. And that's the thing is that those people are pushing your buttons. And people listening tonight know exactly what I'm talking about.
Get rid of your buttons so they can't push them.
Yeah, you
That's
get rid of them.
love.
And also you see yourself when you were younger in them and you kind of see them as the babies they are and the diapers they got. And you just go, hey, you send love and you go, hey, I'm cool with you. I wish you the best. You don't even have to say this, but in your head you can think there will be a day that this person's going to get it. It's probably not going to be today, but I don't have to be the person that serves it. Okay?
Kind of like road rage. You can react by raising a finger, or if you smile and just take the other route, it will turn it around. It will blow them away.
Now, see, road rage is something that I have not experienced in many years because I don't drive.
You don't drive.
Right.
Otherwise you would.
Get out in the streets of Dallas or other places. It's there.
Otherwise I'd be bailing you out of jail. I'd be like, here we go, Gary, let's go bail Keenan out of jail for road rage again.
Road rage.
And it's true. And it's like when you start realizing, like, for example, this is kind of a funny little deal. I used to fly sometimes on Aeromexico, and they were the last airplane that would allow you to smoke in the back 2 rows, right? And I used to smoke like cloves, like black cloves, and I was that's so awful as a kid. I was still in my teens, And I look back at those times, and then I remembered after I quit smoking, like sitting at a restaurant and these kids just smoking in my face and blowing it at me, and I'd already quit, and I was thinking, jerk offs, and it would just push all my buttons. And then when I finally realized that I am loved, now when I see that, I go, oh my gosh. There where I am when I was 17 and 18, okay? Before, I would have just been so mad I would have walked over there and said, do you not have any respect for other people? But instead, I was thinking, okay, I can do what I need to do to move if I need to move, but otherwise, they're just learning. Eventually, they're going to be me looking at them going, will you just stop? And they're going to go through the same experience, and then they're going to eventually get over it, and their buttons won't get pushed anymore. But it's just a learning process.
If they're lucky, if they grow.
If they're lucky,
and if they mature.
If they grow,
But if they don't mature, then we don't have to talk to them because they're not mature. You know? I mean, if they still got their diapers on, you can tell them you still got your diapers on and I got to roll. I'm done. I'm an adult here. I'm actually finding myself. I'm figuring out personal intimacy, and I don't have time for your riffraff. I just don't have it.
And the
diaper
rash burns them, not you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they got to get the
diaper rash.
The Johnson & Johnson baby powder or whatever that, I don't know.
See? They got to get the powder out.
Yeah. Or
mommy's got to help them out, and it's true. It's like, and a lot of them are just grown babies, and sometimes you can't hold their hand. People can't find intimacy with the help of other persons. They have to do it on their own. We all have an independent journey, and we can grow together in a marriage. We can be together in relationships. But like you said earlier, you're probably going to die on your own. And I know that's a way to take the show down. Let's bring it back up. But and all in all, it is an independent journey. And what we learn from this is our own intimacy, and all these issues and things that we learn about that we see in other people is within us. And so if we can get past all this stuff and realize that it's a learning process, and like you said, Gary, you can choose to accept some or let other people have it.
You find love on your own too.
You do, and you find it within yourself, and you can't see it in someone else until you have it within yourself. You can't find happiness either, in this world until you find it in yourself. I mean, because it's nothing. You weren't born without anything. You were given everything you need.
Yeah.
You might not get all of everything, like the great house and this and that, but you were given happiness. You have the ability to be loved, and you have all that within you. You just have to find it. Sometimes it's like a scavenger hunt. It's still there. So I had a great show. I'll look forward to next Sunday as well. Gary, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
It was awesome having you here.
All right.
Look forward to more times.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Keenan, you rock the house.
Thank you.
This is good stuff.
Yes, it was good stuff. Good stuff.
Diaper rash in the house. Here we go.
Spread the love.
Bill, how you doing?
Doing good.
Really?
All right.
Look forward to seeing everybody next week. So have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, and stay tuned because Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Berges, will be back in 3 shakes.